January 26, 1945, Holtzware, France. The air is brittle with cold, the kind that cracks in your lungs when you breathe too fast. Snow lies in dirty ridges along the ditches, churned gray by boots and tracked vehicles. Somewhere beyond the white fields, German machine guns are already awake, short, brutal bursts that rip across the morning and chew the air low to the ground. Lieutenant Audie Murphy, 3rd Infantry Division, presses himself into a frozen irrigation ditch and listens. He's 19 years old. He weighs barely 110 pounds under a frost-stiffened field jacket. His helmet is rimmed with ice, his breath a thin white ghost. In his gloved hands is an M1 carbine, light, fast, and not nearly enough for what's coming. Ahead of him, a burned-out M10 tank destroyer smolders quietly, its blackened hull rising like a tombstone from the snow. The smell of scorched metal and diesel still hangs in the air. Moments ago, it had been alive, its crew laughing, its engine growling. Now it's dead, and so are the men who rode it. Murphy's company has been ordered to hold this ground at all costs. The Germans know it. A sudden hammering roar erupts from the tree line. MG-42s, Hitler's buzzsaws, open up in overlapping arcs. Snow explodes in sharp little geysers. Men flatten themselves instinctively, faces pressed into ice, hands clawing for cover that isn't there. Murphy lifts his head just enough to see it. 3 machine gun nests, well dug, carefully placed, each one covering the other. The Germans have done this before. The first burst catches Private Kerr as he tries to crawl back. Kerr doesn't even cry out. He just jerks once and goes still, his rifle skidding from numb fingers. Someone screams his name. Someone else prays. The ditch fills with panic, sharp and electric. Murphy scans left, then right. His platoon is shrinking by the second. They are pinned flat, helpless under interlocking fire. If they stay, they die. If they retreat, the Germans roll straight through to the rear. Murphy makes a decision that will later sound insane on paper. He tells his men to fall back. They stare at him shocked. Officers don't say that, not here, not now. But Murphy's voice cuts through the gunfire, calm, clipped, final. Get back, I'll cover you. One by one they pull away, crawling, dragging the wounded, disappearing behind the rise. The ditch empties until Murphy is alone with the dead and the frozen earth. The German guns don't stop. Murphy checks his ammunition. 2 magazines, a handful of grenades hanging heavy on his belt. He glances at the burning M10 again, and then does something no one expects. He runs for it. Bullets snap past his ears as he scrambles up the icy slope and climbs onto the tank destroyer's exposed hull. The metal is still hot enough to bite through his gloves. Smoke stings his eyes. From here he can see the nests clearly now. Dark mouths in the snow, flashes of muzzle fire punching outward in rhythmic fury. Murphy slams the bipod of the M10's 50 caliber machine gun into position. The weapon is miraculously intact. He feeds the belt, racks the charging handle, and opens fire. The sound is thunder. The 50 cal roars across the field, its heavy rounds smashing into the tree line, tearing bark, punching through sandbags. One German gun stutters, then goes silent. Murphy shifts the barrel, walking the fire sideways, forcing heads down, pinning them the way they've pinned his men. A mortar round lands close. Shrapnel slices into Murphy's leg, a white-hot line of pain. He grits his teeth and keeps firing. Then the 50 cal jams. Murphy doesn't hesitate. He drops from the tank destroyer, hits the snow hard, and rolls into the open. The Germans see him now, a lone American officer running straight at them through knee-deep snow, a walking grenade. Murphy pulls the pin on his first grenade and hurls it with everything he has. It arcs cleanly, disappearing into the first machine gun nest. The explosion punches outward, throwing dirt, wood, and bodies into the air. Murphy is already moving. He fires his carbine from the hip as he advances, short, controlled bursts, muzzle flashing in the white daylight. German soldiers scramble, shouting, trying to swing their gun toward him. Too late. Murphy charges the position, emptying his magazine, then dives into the wrecked nest, boots crunching on shattered timbers and spent brass. One machine gun nest is gone. 2 remain, and every German gun on the field is now turning toward him. The remaining 2 machine gun nests open fire almost simultaneously. The sound is different up close, not the distant tearing roar heard from a ditch, but a violent metallic shriek that seems to claw the air apart. Bullets rake the shattered position, splintering wood inches from Murphy's head. Snow sprays into his face. He presses himself flat, feeling the ground tremble as rounds chew through the frozen soil. Murphy reloads by touch alone. His fingers are numb, clumsy, stiff with cold and blood. Somewhere behind him, beyond the slight rise, his men are still pulling back, still alive. For now, that means his gamble is working. But it won't for long. He peeks over the edge of the nest. The second German position is dug in near a low cluster of trees, its muzzle flashes strobing like a camera gone mad. The third sits farther right, partially hidden by a hedgerow, covering the approach with ruthless precision. Each gun protects the other. Move toward one, the other kills you. Murphy exhales slowly. He pulls another grenade free. This time he doesn't throw immediately. He waits. He counts the rhythm of the gun. 3 seconds firing, half-second pause. When the pause comes, Murphy rises and runs. The snow drags at his boots, stealing speed, but momentum carries him forward. A burst snaps past his left shoulder, so close he feels the heat. Another chews a furrow at his feet. Murphy stumbles, recovers, and keeps going, arm cocked back. He throws. The grenade lands short, too short. Murphy swears, dives as it detonates, the blast lifting him slightly off the ground and slamming him back into the snow. Shrapnel whistles overhead. His ears scream. His vision narrows. Still alive. He scrambles forward, firing now, carbine bucking in his hands. The German gunners panic. One lifts his head to adjust the weapon, and Murphy cuts him down with a burst to the chest. Murphy is inside the kill zone now. The second nest tries to swing the gun toward him. He's 10 yards away, too close for comfort, too far to stop. Murphy empties his magazine and then throws himself bodily into the nest. It's chaos inside. Wood, wire, torn sandbags. A German soldier lunges with a rifle, bayonet flashing. Murphy fires point blank, the muzzle blast lighting the nest like a camera flash. Another man reaches for a pistol. Murphy smashes him aside with the butt of his carbine. The gun goes silent. 2 nests destroyed. Murphy staggers out, chest heaving, legs shaking from blood loss and exhaustion. His left leg burns where shrapnel tore into muscle. Warmth spreads inside his boot, instantly chilling. He forces himself to stay upright. The third machine gun nest is still firing, and now German infantry are advancing. Dark figures emerge from the tree line, spreading out, moving cautiously, rifles raised. They hadn't expected resistance like this, not from one man, but now they adapt. They begin to encircle, to close in. Murphy limps toward the burned-out M10 again, using it like a magnet, drawing fire. Bullets clang off the steel hull, sharp metallic cracks that ring in his skull. He climbs back onto the tank destroyer, ignoring the pain screaming through his body, and grabs the .50 caliber once more. This time, it doesn't jam. Murphy squeezes the trigger and holds it down. The machine gun roars, shaking the dead vehicle beneath him. The recoil pounds his wounded leg, sending fresh agony up his spine, but he doesn't stop. He rakes the advancing Germans, cutting them down in lines, forcing the rest to scatter and dive for cover. The third machine gun nest tries to fire back. Murphy swivels the barrel and unleashes hell. Sandbags disintegrate, wood explodes, the nest collapses under the weight of the fire, its gun falling silent beneath the storm of 50 caliber rounds. For a moment, just a moment, the battlefield goes quiet. Snow drifts lazily through the smoke. Bodies lie motionless where they fell. Murphy slumps against the gun, barely aware of the blood soaking through his trousers, barely aware that his hands are shaking uncontrollably. Then the counterattack comes. Mortar rounds whistle in, landing closer now. Explosions throw snow and dirt skyward. Murphy forces himself off the tank destroyer and stumbles forward again, raising his carbine, chairing commands that tear his throat raw, commands meant for men who aren't there anymore. But the Germans hear him. They hesitate. And in that hesitation, Murphy's company returns. American rifles crack from behind the rise. BARs open up. The line surges forward, reclaiming the frozen ground inch by inch. The Germans, bloodied and stunned, begin to fall back. Murphy collapses into the snow at last, strength finally gone. He has destroyed 3 machine gun nests, alone, and he is not done paying the price.
A shadow falls across him. "Lieutenant! Lieutenant Murphy!" Hands grip his shoulders, shaking him gently, urgently. He blinks, focusing with effort. Faces swim into view, his men, mud-smeared, exhausted, alive. He tries to sit up. Someone pushes him back down. "Don't move, sir. You're hit bad." Murphy ignores them. He cranes his neck toward the field. The Germans are pulling back now, slipping into the trees under covering fire, dragging their wounded. The machine gun nests that pinned them down minutes ago are silent, broken shapes in the snow. The line has held. Only then does Murphy let his head fall back. Medics reach him at last, sliding into the snow with practiced urgency. They cut away fabric, press bandages, work fast. Murphy's leg is shredded with shrapnel. One medic shakes his head grimly. This is not a flesh wound. This is the kind that ends days or lives. "Sir," the medic says, leaning close so Murphy can hear him, "you're going back. No argument." Murphy nods barely. He has no strength left to fight it. As they load him onto a stretcher, another German shell lands nearby, showering them with dirt. The medics duck instinctively, shielding Murphy with their bodies. Murphy watches the sky, strangely calm, his breath fogging in weak bursts. He has done his job. They carry him back through the snow, past the men who had retreated and returned, past the burned-out vehicles and frozen bodies. Soldiers stare as he passes, some in disbelief, others in quiet understanding. Word is already spreading. 1 man, 3 nests, held the line alone. At the aid station, Murphy fades in and out. Painkillers blur the edges of reality. Voices come and go. He catches fragments. Lucky to be alive. Shouldn't have made it. Damn kids got more guts than sense. Days later, when he wakes fully, the war has moved on without him. He is in a field hospital, white walls and sharp smells replacing snow and smoke. His leg is heavily bandaged, suspended to keep pressure off the wound. The pain is constant now, a dull, gnawing ache that never fully leaves. A colonel visits him. The officer stands at the foot of the bed, hands clasped behind his back, eyes studying Murphy with open curiosity. He asks Murphy to recount what happened at Holtzwihr. Murphy tells it plainly, No embellishment, no drama, just facts. The colonel listens, then nods slowly. "You saved your company," he says. "Probably more than that." Murphy shrugs as much as the bed allows. "Just did what needed doing, sir." The colonel doesn't smile. He reaches into his coat and pulls out a small notebook, jotting something down. "You're going to hear about this again," he says quietly. Weeks pass. Murphy heals enough to walk, though his leg will never truly be the same. He returns to duty, limping slightly, a reminder etched into his body. The war grinds on. Villages taken, lost, taken again. More cold mornings, more names added to the dead. Then, in the spring, orders come down. Murphy is summoned, not to the front, but to headquarters. On June 2nd, 1945, in a quiet ceremony far from the gunfire, Lieutenant Audie Murphy stands before General Alexander Patch. His uniform is clean, his posture is rigid, he looks younger than ever. The citation is read aloud. It speaks of a lone officer who held off an enemy attack by mounting a burning tank destroyer, of machine gun nests destroyed under direct fire, of leadership beyond reason, of courage beyond expectation. When the general places the Medal of Honor around Murphy's neck, the room is silent. He feels its weight, heavy, solid, final. He thinks of Holtzfear, of the frozen ditch, of the men who didn't make it back. The war ends soon after. Murphy goes home a hero, but the walking grenade carries the battlefield with him. Lieutenant Audie Murphy sits alone, hands folded in his lap. The Medal of Honor rests in its case beside him, wrapped carefully, as if it might explode if handled too roughly. He hasn't told anyone on the train who he is. He doesn't want the stares, the questions, the congratulations. Right now, he just wants quiet. But quiet doesn't come easily. Every metallic clang of the train couplers sounds like a machine gun bolt slamming home. Every sudden whistle snaps his head around. Sleep, when it comes, is shallow and broken, filled with snow, smoke, and the rattling roar of an MG-42 tearing the world apart. Murphy is officially a hero. Unofficially, he is still in that frozen field. Back in Texas, crowds gather, photographs are taken, hands are shaken, politicians speak in practiced voices about bravery and sacrifice. Murphy stands stiffly, smiles when he's told to, answers questions with the same plain humility that carried him through the war. Inside, he feels hollow. People expect stories, bold, clean stories with clear endings. Murphy gives them none. He speaks of the boys, of doing his job. He never talks about the fear, never about the moment when he was certain he would die alone in the snow. At night, the war comes back anyway. He wakes soaked in sweat, heart racing, fingers clawing at empty air, reaching for a rifle that isn't there. He hears shouting in German, the clatter of gunfire, feels again the brutal kick of the .50 caliber hammering through his wounded leg. There is no name for this yet. No one calls it post-traumatic stress. No doctor knows what to do with a 20-year-old who survived too much. Some tell him to drink, others tell him to forget. Murphy tries both. Neither works. He drifts, restless, unable to settle back into the life he left behind. The war gave him purpose, clarity, life reduced to survival and loyalty. Civilian life is messy, slow, and loud in all the wrong ways. Then Hollywood comes calling. It's supposed to be harmless, a distraction, a way to turn the war into something neat and distant. Murphy is skeptical, but he agrees, partly for the money, partly because he doesn't know what else to do. In front of the camera, something strange happens. He is calm. The lights, the lines, the repeated takes, it's controlled chaos, nothing like combat, but familiar enough to quiet the noise in his head. He learns quickly. Directors notice. Audiences respond. The walking grenade becomes a leading man. But fame doesn't silence the memories. On set, the crack of a prop gun can still freeze him in place. During one shoot, he dives for cover instinctively, heart pounding, eyes wild. Crew members stare, confused. Embarrassed, Murphy laughs it off. At home, it's worse. He sleeps with a loaded pistol under his pillow, afraid of dreams he can't control. He tapes the barrel shut at night so he won't hurt anyone in his sleep, something he doesn't tell the reporters. Years later, when he writes To Hell and Back, he finally puts the memories on paper. The frozen field, the burned-out tank destroyer, the machine gun nests. Writing hurts, but it also frees him, piece by piece. When Hollywood adapts the book, Murphy plays himself. He reenacts Holtz-War in front of cameras, standing again on a mock tank destroyer, firing a Prop 50 caliber into fake snow. The crew sees a movie scene. Murphy sees the real thing. And still, he does it. Because some battles don't end when the shooting stops.
Hollywood turns him into an image. Posters show him tall and confident, shoulders squared, eyes steady. Magazine profiles call him America's most decorated soldier. Reporters list his medals like trophies: Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, Bronze Stars, stacked so high they almost sound unreal. Murphy reads none of it. He is busy trying to live. Between films, he visits old comrades when he can. Some are thriving. Some are broken in ways no one sees. Many are gone. Every reunion is smaller than the last. Every handshake carries unspoken memories of places like Holtzwehr, places the world has already forgotten. When people ask him about courage, Murphy answers the same way every time. You do what you have to do for the men next to you. He refuses to call himself fearless. He tells young soldiers that fear is always there, that it never really leaves. The difference, he says, is what you do when it shows up. Behind the scenes, Murphy fights quietly for veterans. He speaks openly, uncomfortably, about nightmares, about panic, about men who come home but never really return. It's not popular. It doesn't fit the clean post-war narrative. But some listen. Slowly, the conversation begins to change. The man who once charged machine gun nests alone now uses words instead of grenades. He testifies, gives interviews, pushes for better treatment for veterans who are told to just get over it. It costs him work. Studios prefer heroes who smile easily. Murphy doesn't care. By the late 1960s, the war that defined him is nearly a quarter-century past. New wars fill the headlines. New young men ship out, just as certain of their own invincibility as he once was. Murphy watches them go with a heaviness he never shakes. On May 28, 1971, tragedy strikes far from any battlefield. A small private plane, flying through dense fog near Roanoke, Virginia, slams into Brush Mountain. There are no survivors. Audie Murphy is among the dead. He is 45 years old. The news hits hard. Flags lower. Veterans weep openly. Men who once followed him into fire stand in stunned silence. The walking grenade, who ran straight at death and lived, has been taken by something random, senseless, and final. Murphy is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. His grave is simple. No gold leaf, no decoration, just his name, rank, and medals carved in plain stone. It becomes one of the most visited graves in Arlington. Veterans stopping quietly, families pausing to read, young soldiers standing a little straighter. They come not just to honor what he did, but what he represented. A boy who shouldn't have survived, a man who refused to quit, a soldier who stood alone when it mattered most. In that frozen field at Holzwehr, the Germans threw everything they had at him: machine guns, mortars, infantry. They couldn't stop him. Because courage, when it's real, doesn't look like invincibility. It looks like a wounded 19-year-old sergeant climbing onto a burning tank destroyer, refusing his men to die behind him.
Murphy rejected all of it. He knew the truth was simpler and harder to explain. On January 26, 1945, nothing about the situation favored him. He was outnumbered, wounded, exposed, facing weapons designed specifically to cut down charging infantry. By every rule of warfare, Audie Murphy should have died in that snow. The Germans did everything right. Their machine gun nests were textbook, interlocking fields of fire, protected approaches, overlapping coverage. The MG-42s could fire nearly 1,200 rounds per minute, filling entire lanes with lead. Against that, Murphy had a carbine, a handful of grenades, and a burning vehicle. But the Germans made one fatal miscalculation. They expected fear to do the rest. They expected the American line to break once the pressure mounted, once bodies started falling, once retreat seemed like the only rational option. That assumption had worked countless times before. It didn't work this time. Murphy understood something they didn't, that fear cuts both ways. A man charging straight into machine gun fire is terrifying, not because he's strong, but because he's unpredictable. Every German gunner at Holzwehr had to make a choice in seconds: keep firing at the retreating Americans or swing the barrel toward the officer sprinting alone through the snow. That hesitation, those half seconds, were enough. Murphy didn't move like a hero from a poster. He moved like a survivor, low, fast, ruthless. He closed distance where machine guns lose their advantage. He forced chaos into positions built on control. When the Germans tried to adapt, Murphy adapted faster. They shifted fire. He shifted angles. They suppressed. He advanced. They regrouped. He attacked again. By the time they realized he was alone, it no longer mattered. This is why legends are rarely born from perfect plans. They come from moments where someone refuses to behave the way the enemy expects. Murphy never called it bravery. To him, it was obligation. His men were pinned. Retreat meant death. Holding meant sacrifice. If someone had to draw the fire, he decided it would be him. That choice, made in seconds, echoed for decades. Today, military instructors still study Holzwehr, not because it's repeatable, but because it illustrates a truth no manual can fully teach. Initiative under fire can shatter even the most disciplined defenses. Audie Murphy didn't win because he was invincible. He won because he acted when action seemed impossible. And when the Germans finally stopped firing, it wasn't because they ran out of bullets. It was because the one man they couldn't break had already broken their line.
But history doesn't vanish just because the ground looks peaceful. On January 26, 1945, in that frozen patch of France, the war narrowed to a single point, one man deciding that his fear would not decide the outcome. Audie Murphy did not change the course of World War II that morning. He did something far rarer. He changed the fate of the men beside him. The phrase walking grenade sounds dramatic, almost mythic, but in reality it described something brutally simple, a soldier who carried destruction with him because he refused to stop moving forward. Every step Murphy took forced the enemy to react. Every reaction created another opening. That is how 3 machine gun nests fell. Not through superior numbers, not through overwhelming firepower, but through relentless pressure applied by a man who understood that hesitation was deadlier than bullets. Audie Murphy survived Holtzwihr, but the cost was permanent. His leg never fully healed, his sleep never fully returned, his fame never brought him peace. Yet he never regretted that moment in the snow. When asked years later if he would do it again, he didn't hesitate. "Yes," he said, "for my men." That answer is why his story endures. Not because it's cinematic, though it is, not because it's extreme, though it was, but because it strips heroism down to its core. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move anyway. The Germans couldn't stop him until their machine guns were silent, their lines shattered, their attack broken. And even then, they hadn't truly stopped him, because the example he set kept moving forward long after the smoke cleared. Today, his grave at Arlington remains unadorned by gold leaf, visited by soldiers who pause, read his name, and understand without explanation. They don't see a movie star. They don't see a legend. They see a lieutenant in the snow, wounded and outnumbered, climbing onto a burning tank destroyer and deciding that the enemy would go no farther. That is why Audie Murphy still matters. That is why this story is still told.